once you'd gotten here, what did you feel like was different that brought you to that point of recognizing like, oh, like I do actually need to give my whole life to God?
Yeah, just the authenticity of here. Other churches that we'd been to, when Kurt talks about like American Christianity, like that there is a difference, when we were probably experiencing American Christianity. And we started to come here and just get more and more convicted. Like, no, this is the lifestyle that we're living is not the lifestyle that we should be living. And became more and more convicted in that. And then had the realization that I just hadn't given my whole self. I was hanging on to this drinking, this partying thing. That was me being selfish with that. And it took a while. It wasn't like, oh yeah, and I'm done drinking. It took a while for me to get to that point. But once I got to that point, just my life's been dramatically different, ever since then.
Welcome to NewLifeCast, episode 7. I'm confident of that this week. It is episode 7. And for episode 7, we have our wonderful guest, Scott McMaster. Thanks, Scott. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think we have a lot to say other than Jerra had a quick announcement about the political stuff she's getting into.
Always getting into something. I'm not sure when you guys are watching this, but a recent Sunday, Josh and I talked about a bill that's being proposed, and we didn't have a way on the screen for you to just go ahead and do what we were asking you to do, which was sign this petition and copy and paste this email to send to your district senator. And I'm figuring a lot of you have forgotten about it. Because I think it's going to be in this week's email. But if you're listening now and you haven't done that, please go to my Facebook or contact me directly right now so I can send you that information so that you can sign that petition and write that email. It's super important. These state senators are thinking that we don't care about the children in Iowa when we do. They're taking your silence as you don't care about protecting children. And I know you do care. So please, while you're thinking about it, send that email or contact me for more information. The senators meet again in January, I believe. And this bill will be reintroduced by, I think her name is Sandy Salmon. And it would be really nice to have a ton of signatures and for these senators to have gotten a lot of emails from you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jerra. Yeah, that's an important bill, it sounds like to me.
I think it's important.
Well, Scott, thank you again for being here. You were just saying that you've listened to almost all the episodes of NewLifeCast. What do you think about the podcast?
Love it.
You love it?
Yeah.
What do you love about the podcast?
I like getting to know people. I'm really inquisitive, and you do all the work for me, so I just have to sit back and listen. So.
Well, you're very welcome. We enjoy it as well. Yeah. So you probably know that we always start out with one question then. What is your favorite color? And I'm pretty sure I already know, but what does it say about you as a person?
I knew you were going to ask me this.
Yeah.
And I have it planned. All right. So my favorite color is blue.
I never would have guessed.
Went for a patch there where our colors were red, but now we're through that and we get to the true color of blue.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of why I like the color blue, and I was going back and I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think it was because Leonardo on the Ninja Turtles was blue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what it comes down to.
Well,
because I like Leonardo.
Honestly, for me, like Raphael being red, I mean, that's kind of like been one of my go-to favorite colors. So
it all comes back to Ninja Turtles.
It all comes back to Ninja Turtles. Yeah. And Josh's favorite color is orange, and that's Michelangelo's little face mask thing. So
yep.
I know that.
The Ninja Turtles are very impactful.
They are, especially for colors. Yep.
Uh-huh.
And what does that say about me? Leonardo was leader,
Yeah.
and I think that shapes my whole human adulthood.
Yeah, I could see that. Yes. Yeah, I think Raphael was the edgy one, and I feel like that's shaped my whole adulthood as well. So
See, there we go.
I gotta figure out my identity and watch this show.
This
I
needs,
know
to,
who I am.
this needs to be the new personality test. It's just one Ninja Turtle are you? There's 4 personality types. There's Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they are pretty archetypal personalities.
Should that be our second question from
Our
now
second
on?
question, what Ninja Turtle are you?
Which
Yes.
Ninja Turtle eye thing are you? What color?
They had like armbands and
Yeah,
stuff
which
too.
armband? I
Yeah.
don't know. Just
Everyone just knows Donatello's purple, and yeah, you know.
Was the fact that Leonardo had katanas also a big draw?
Yeah,
I feel
swords
like-
made the most sense out of everything.
Yeah, I feel like he had the coolest weapons.
Yeah.
The other people's weapons are just kind of like, what
Oh,
are
you're
they
gonna
doing?
get hit with a piece of wood? Okay.
Right. What is your earliest memory?
Ooh, I think my earliest memory is in our house in Madison in Wichita, and I went downstairs and there was a giant daddy long legs in the sink. And in my head, like even though I know I'm older and everything, but in my head it was like this big. Like, but also I was much smaller. So I think it was probably more like a normal daddy long legs. But it was massive. But like that's kind of my earliest memory is that house, the daddy long legs, and then we had a flood in the basement. And yeah, we were constantly like fixing that house up, I think getting ready to sell it. Those are kind of some of my earliest memories.
And what age do you think the daddy long leg was at?
Oh, probably 3-ish, 4-ish, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's like when most people's earliest memories are. Like there's really exceptional people that are like, I remember being a baby.
really?
I mean, I feel like there's a few of those people out there.
Probably brother Jeff.
Jeff?
Jeff probably remembers being a baby.
Yeah, that's true. He has pretty good memory. But
The fixing up the house, getting ready to sell seems like a
It's come back to haunt me.
Yeah, it's a thing that what you guys are doing with your rentals and your parents are still fixing up houses,
Still.
getting ready to sell them.
Yeah. What is that? 30-ish some years later.
You should have seen it coming, Scott.
I know.
so, what was your childhood like? You said Wichita, Kansas, right? So is that where you were born, or?
Yeah, I was born in Wichita, Kansas. That's where most of my mom and dad's family is from, is Wichita. I grew up in going to school in Goddard School District. I was there till I was like in 2nd grade. But I remember Miss Loomis was my teacher, and she had the Magic Toadstool Kingdom. So everyone got to sit on a toadstool and read a book, and it was a cool thing.
Huh, so it was like just little toadstool seats or something?
Yeah.
Nice.
And she had to be close to 70 or 80, you know, and she's still just loving what she was doing and teaching kids how to read. And yeah, I loved it. And then after Wichita, my dad took a job over in Springfield, Missouri. So then we lived over in Missouri from the time I was in 3rd grade through 6th grade. Yeah. So I lived over there. Our claim to fame over in Springfield was Bass Pro Shops.
Nice.
So we had all of our friends come and visit us and then spend a day at Bass Pro Shops. That was before it got big and had all these locations. That was like I think it was like the original one. So
Is that how you developed your passion for fishing?
no, it was actually my grandpa. So he was the one that got me into that. So that's what we would do for fun. That's what we do to bond. And then he would take us camping and fishing, and we'd stay up at what seemed like probably a really late time going night fishing for catfish. And then we leave our poles out and then come back the next morning and it was like Christmas because you'd have catfish on the lines and like it'd be all tangled up and you see one that went this way and one that went that way and it was a blast. Yeah.
Would you guys like cook them up right there on the fire or?
My grandma would she had a recipe that she followed and she'd fry them up and yeah, if we cooked enough, they'd have a fish fry at church. They had a really small church.
Oh, nice.
So if we caught enough, we'd have a fish fry and make it a big deal, and that's what we do at the end of our stay at Grandma and Grandpa's.
Is this your maternal or paternal grandfather?
Maternal.
You're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
And this is with you and your sister?
Yeah, my sister was there.
Okay.
She wasn't as excited about the catfish or the camping as I was. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you just have how many siblings do you have? I honestly don't
just
know.
one sister. Yeah.
Okay, one sister. And what's her name?
Amanda.
Okay. So what was your family dynamic? Like what was your relationship with your parents? How'd you get along with your sister?
So I do not have a great memory. But I think my sister and I we fought. We bickered just like siblings do.
Yeah.
We weren't ever like super close because we're a few years apart in age and not she's a girl and I'm a guy. It's just different interests. But my parents they're very loving. I went and I sold books door to door and saw 3,000 families every summer, and I came back that first summer realizing how good I had it with my folks, that like they really cared about me and they wanted what was best for me and held me accountable to that. Yeah.
What did you see that made you have that realization?
I saw a lot of families that were broken. I saw a lot of families that probably didn't put much of an emphasis on their children. Like it was like door to door, knocking on every single door. So I saw all aspects of human life and family life.
So was this when you were staying? Because I know you guys stayed with some people when you traveled to sell books, but like you would knock on the door and you'd like see their family dynamic within the, like how long?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a house for like 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes if it's longer.
Yeah.
And it was hot outside. And
Yeah.
you wanted some AC. Yeah, so you'd sit down and you'd get the kids involved so they could see the books and get excited about the books and everything. But you'd kind of see how they'd interact, and sometimes just walking into a home, you realize it's not a good house, it's not a good family situation. It's kind of a rougher part. Worked in some really poor areas of Northeast Arkansas where there wasn't a door to knock on. It was just like a blanket over the front door. Yeah. So I came back very appreciative of my family and what they provided for me.
What do you feel like they did differently to love you and to be focused on you?
Yeah, my dad coached my soccer teams, and I don't think he ever played soccer before, but he did it because there was no one else that was willing to. So he stepped up and did that and coached my teams. My parents were always involved. They always went to all the things that I did, even when I was young and in band, and it was probably pretty miserable to listen to. They supported me in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
And did you grow up going to church or? Yeah,
we grew up going to church. Grew up going to Awanas in Missouri. So we found a church in Missouri and we did Awanas. So when I was able to come back and help out with Awanas, it was kind of full circle. Yeah.
So did you were you Sparky when you were doing Awana there, or?
Let's see. I don't think I was a Sparky.
Okay.
I don't think I was Sparky. I think I was whatever the other ones were at the time.
Well, I know there's Cubbies, which is the youngest one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this. I mean, we're talking like really old.
Thanks.
I don't know how long the TNT has been called TNT. So
yeah, I don't remember TNT. I'm just part of the normal group.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a TNT. Maybe I just didn't notice I was TNT back then. I don't know.
So did your parents like make an extra emphasis in your family life to like make God the center, or was it just like we go to church, we have these rules?
We go to church and we had conversations about it. We didn't dive deep into theology. I think for me and my family is more actions than words or necessarily teachings. You know, and my grandparents were a big part of that. A big part of that too. My grandma and grandpa were believers, and they probably talked about it a little bit more. You know.
Yeah. So, were your grandparents in Missouri or were they in Kansas?
My grandparents were in Kansas.
Okay.
But we would go and visit, and they would come and visit us when they were younger, and my folks were younger.
Yeah.
Jess had mentioned that I think it was your grandpa that had the cabin. I'd like to know
I think we scarred Jess.
your side of the story of that.
So we were in college, and I wanted Jess to meet my grandparents, and they had this really cool like cabin on, maybe it's like the Nenaskaw River or something like that, and that's just where they would go, and they would run lines out on the river. And we'd go fishing all the time. And I just thought it was like the greatest place ever. So I thought it was so cool that they were going to be there and I could take Jess there. What I didn't realize is that there wasn't much there for utilities.
You're probably more thinking about the fish rather than the facilities.
Only thinking about the fish all the time. No AC, no running water. Yeah.
She said it was an outhouse situation too.
There was an outhouse. That's where you'd go use the bathroom. Yep. Yep.
And she said you didn't know until you guys got there. And she was like, Scott,
Well,
the toilet's outside.
Yeah, it just never really bothered me or occurred to me when I was growing up and hanging out there. Yeah, I hadn't been there for a long time. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and we had Otis at the time, and my grandma did grandma things, and she fed Otis like twice as much or 3 times as much.
Oh my gosh!
And he just ballooned up. It was like a balloon, like a little Otis puppy dog balloon.
Oh,
yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, stepping back a little bit, 'cause that's getting a little bit ahead.
I know.
I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to
You gotta
hear
go
what
chronologically.
you had
I'm
to say
sorry.
about that.
Yeah.
No, we can jump around. That's fine. But so going into high school, was that a big shift for you, or what do you remember from that?
Yeah, so probably my biggest shift is just moving from Springfield up to Iowa. You know, that was 7th grade, so I was going new place, junior high. So that was tough. I was pretty shy growing up. So that was kind of tough for me. I lost my best friend back in Missouri, Brandon, and coming up to a new place, didn't really know a lot of people, and it took me a little while to build some friendships. But we moved to Carlisle, Iowa. It's not a great big community. There's only like 88 people in my graduating class. So everybody knew each other, and after a while it was like unavoidable, like you're gonna make friends.
Yeah.
You know. So that was tough. And then getting into high school, it wasn't a big deal. It was all the same building. So there wasn't really much of a transition, had the same friends and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of things did you do in high school?
Let's see here. I tried band that was more middle school. I tried band in middle school and realized that in Missouri, we were behind in a few things. Musical instruments was one of them. So I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just basically faking it. I'm going to get out of this. Let's see. I did all the sports at one point. I did basketball. I was on the B team in basketball. Me and my friend Billy were on the B team in basketball. We had fun doing that. I tried wrestling the next year in 8th grade, and I just got pummeled. Didn't know anything about wrestling, and the 2 guys that are were right around my weight class were like 3rd and 5th in the state. It's like, this isn't gonna work. But in high school I did soccer and football. Trying to think of it. I don't really do a whole lot outside of that. I worked. I really liked working.
What job did you have?
Well, before I was old enough to work, I volunteered at the pet resort that was down the road from us.
They paid you under the table?
They paid me in like movie gift cards. My mom worked there, and I would just come and play with the dogs. Like, you could pay extra to have someone play with your dog while they boarded there. And it was like a resort. Like, yeah, they had their own suites. They had TVs that they played. They brought movies for them. Yeah,
the dogs.
Yeah, the
Wow.
dogs. Yep, they were treated really well, and you could pay extra to have like a treat time and a play time, and that was my role, was to play with all the dogs during playtime.
Play professional.
Yep.
What kind of movies were they showing the dogs? Like
Milo and
and
Otis.
Otis.
Yeah. Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound.
Yeah. You had to think back a little ways. Yeah.
What's that one with the dog in the well, or no, the person in the well, and
Lassie.
yeah,
Yeah,
Lassie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can see some Lassie. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. Just something so they wouldn't feel lonely.
Yeah. Sounds like you tried a lot of things in high school, though. That is a lot of sports. Why did you try so many things?
Oh, we had to. There's only 88 people in our class, so 44 guys. Everyone had to play sports.
Why did they have all those things if there was such a small class size?
That's just what you do. You know? Yeah. But I really like soccer. I was good at soccer. I was not great at football, but I was good at soccer, and I really liked that. I played that my whole life. Yeah. So
did you have your competitive streak back then?
somewhat. I think it probably developed a little bit more as I got older. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
So you mentioned that you liked to work. So can you think of like what your parents did to instill that in you, or do you think that's just your personality?
My dad was always a hard worker. Mm-hmm. My dad would work hard. He would, like, it seemed like he just kept going. You know, even now as he's older, he's still, you know, he would work a normal job and then fix houses. Mm-hmm. You know, fix up his house on the side. Mm. So he was always working. Not always working, but he was. I think he was a big part of the work ethic, mm-hmm. and it's just something I've always enjoyed. I like working. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is about work that's different from like those sports or like other activities? Like, because a lot of high schoolers are like, I don't want to work. I want to play video games, or I want to do whatever. Want to be with friends. What do you think it is about work that really motivates you?
I don't know if it's a motivation. I just think like you know, the kids in high school or whatever, they might like video games. I just like working. Mm-hmm. You know, it's something I enjoyed. I liked video games too, but I liked being responsible and like bringing in my own money too. You know, mm-hmm. Maybe it was a little control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like just your parents modeling work ethic by working, did they make you work a lot, or were you just happy to come along and do stuff?
Yeah, my dad would have me help out with things. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure.
Just modeling and personality.
Yeah, could be.
Mm-hmm.
So, something very interesting that you said is that you were shy when you were younger. And that's very interesting because you're very not shy now, or at least that's what it seems like. So, what changed?
I mean, I think that's a lot of Jesus in me. Mm-hmm. You know, when I got into high school, I didn't like that about myself, my shyness. And I probably got in with the wrong influences in my life. And I I tried to drink alcohol, and it made me a different person. It made me more outgoing. It made me more I cared less. I think I cared a lot about what people thought about me a lot back then. So if I didn't say anything, I wouldn't say something stupid or do something dumb. And people wouldn't have a negative viewpoint on me.
There's some wisdom to that, though.
there's a balance probably.
Yes, there's a balance.
So I liked that I was outgoing when I drank, and I did that a lot more throughout high school and into college. And then, shortly after I came here, I realized that I shouldn't be doing that. As a Christian, I definitely shouldn't be doing that. I realized that I had kind of saved this one part of myself for myself, and I wasn't giving my whole self up to God. And when I gave my whole self up to God, I became a lot more outgoing, I guess. I just didn't care about other things as much. And that was where my confidence is from. It's more from my faith and my relationship with God.
So when did that start? When did your relationship with God start, do you feel like?
Yeah. Well, I knew of God in Awanas. And then in 6th grade on the bus ride home one day, my tongue felt like it was swelling up. And that scared me, and I didn't want to go to hell. So I prayed to God and gave my life over to him at that moment, and prayed the prayer. And then, probably into my year, I just started to kind of fall away and hang out with the wrong people. There's someone that moved into me, or moved next door to me, sometime around then, and it started off where I felt like I was being a positive influence, and then at some point it changed, and he was probably being more of an influence on me, and was also struggling with some things and turned to some of that stuff. Yeah. So
it seems like a lot of people get saved on buses. I don't know.
But your tongue swelling up? Why would that? You thought, I'm for sure gonna die right now. I need to make sure I'm going to heaven.
That was it. That was the thought process in my head. It's I need to make sure I'm going to heaven if this is the case.
Wow. So how old were you? Did you say?
6th grade, 12-ish.
Wow.
Yep.
That's quite the forward thinking for a 12-year-old. My tongue is swelling up. I need to think of my eternal destiny.
Well, I have no idea. There's no reason it should have been. I wasn't eating anything. There was no allergic reaction. I don't know. It could have been God just prompting me hey, it's time.
But that's
time. You
amazing,
know me.
though.
Yeah.
A lot of people need death and dramatic stuff, but your tongue swelling up helps lead you to
I thought I was there.
It was. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what was college like for you?
If you could have think in your head of a typical college experience, that was probably what it was like. I was smart enough to know I didn't have to study as much to get okay grades. My goal was to get somewhere in the B-ish range.
Okay.
If it dropped down to a C, that's okay. But I did what I needed to do to get the grades I needed to do, and then the rest of my time was spent with friends and doing probably very short-sighted things. Like Halo was big deal in college.
The first one?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
And all of the dorms that you and I were all connected together, so we would play everybody else in the dorms.
What was your favorite Halo map?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know. Is there one that's called the Gorge?
The Blood Gulch.
Yeah, that's it, Blood
that was
Gulch.
the
Because
best one.
I would sit up there and snipe or take the warthog out. And, yeah. So me and my friends were in Norn 4th floor, and we would always play the guys over in the towers. And Jess actually knew me through my screen name from her friends that were playing Halo before we had ever met.
What was your screen name?
El Bandito.
Nice. So after she saw your screen name and
She didn't see it.
Okay.
Like just people yelling.
People yelled it.
Bandito, yeah.
So after she fell helplessly in love with this enigmatic Bandito, how did you guys finally meet?
We actually met through selling books.
Okay.
So my friend Todd, who that was, Todd's been one of my best friends since 7th grade. So we went to the same college together. We roomed together. And then Todd went out and sold books door to door. And if I was shy, like Todd said like half as many words as I did, And he went out there and I think he made about $15,000 his first summer, which back then that was before inflation.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of money right now.
It was a lot of money, yeah. And I was like, man, if he can do that, then I'm gonna kill it in this, And Todd's just a really hard worker. He kicked my butt, but he actually introduced me to Jess because he went out and sold a summer before the same year as Jess did. And we had met like maybe one time before, but like somewhere around like I think it was like the second time we'd actually seen each other. We decided we're gonna go to church together. So it was kind of an odd thing. Like both kind of felt we were living the college lifestyle. And we felt like this is something we needed to do. So we all went to church together. So
like you, Todd,
me, Todd, and Jess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Todd's been a big part of our life for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you studying in college, by the way?
Business management.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like, I'm going to be a nurse. And then you like discover.
I think I'd always wanted to run my own business. That was just something that was appealing to me. So yeah, I took the most general business classes I could to get a good like range of business topics and everything. Yeah.
Okay. So what was that first church service like for you guys? Like,
no idea, Jared.
Okay. Do you remember what church you guys went to? And
it was very impactful, Jerra.
Yeah, obviously.
Orchard Hill, maybe. I don't know if that's a church up there or not. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
That's the one that comes to my head at least.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah. And they had a cool program that I never really took advantage of, but they would like families would adopt college kids and feed them like once a week. I thought that was cool.
That's very
like
cool.
That's a free meal. Like I'm pretty broke in college. Like
it's probably more nutritious than all the other food you're eating.
Yeah. Like you'd probably get by like 3 or 4 days after a meal like that.
Yeah. That's I would consider any religion if I was hungry enough and in college and didn't have one of my own.
Yeah.
Like, what do you got?
Yeah.
So was that the first time that you done door-to-door sales was selling the books?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd never done. Well, I guess I have to take that back. Like I did fundraising in junior high for the football team.
Comes full circle.
It does. I was the top salesman out of the
right.
out of the group. Yeah. I was born for it.
That's funny.
Oh, actually, when I was in elementary school, like I won a bike for doing the same thing.
Okay, so when I was in elementary school, we had to sell cookies. And so I convinced my dad to take me around our neighborhood so I can sell cookies. And I sold a pretty good amount going and writing the information, taking the money. And people were so kind and generous. But then I brought everything home and I went to school and I had the like paper of how many I sold, but I didn't have the money. I forgot the money. And so the school said, okay, well, here are the cookies. Go give it to the people, bring the money back, and then you can get your prize. But then I lost the addresses to where the cookies were supposed to go. So then my sister said, like, well, maybe we should eat it. So I ate all of the cookies. Then I was like, well, at least I should give the money to the school. Then I lost the money.
You were that kid.
And then it was all like everyone moved on. It had been a while. So then we kept the money because I lost the addresses, so I couldn't give it to those people.
And for years, no one bought anything in that neighborhood.
I bet there was a little girl scamming people.
Have you had a lot of scammers in your business, Scott?
I'm sure there's a percentage that do. We try to just do our best to scare them at the beginning and let them know, like, hey, you're gonna have to pay for this if you don't. And it covers most things. Yeah.
Nice.
I wasn't a scammer. I was just an irresponsible kid.
Unintentional scammer.
Yeah, unintentional. I'll take that.
So I wanted to get back to what you're talking about with when you feel like you fully gave your life to God. What led up to that point?
Just coming here, honestly. And our trip here was kind of wild. So we were living with my folks, and I was selling like telecom to businesses, and I was not doing well at it. I looked like I was like 12 years old, and I was trying to talk to these business owners, and I really didn't know what I was talking about at all. I'm like, why don't you just buy the cheap one? You know, what are you doing spending $200 a month on internet? You know, I just didn't quite understand business at that time in my life. So I was failing at that, and a buddy of mine, I was trying to get into Edward Jones. I was going to try to apply for Edward Jones, and he's like, hey, I'll get you in, you know, but I think there's this job here that you would love a lot more. So I got an interview for Varsity Gold was the fundraising company at the time. So I did that, and we moved out here to Eastern Iowa. And I lived with the only person I knew out here in Cedar Rapids, my friend Kelly. And Kelly, I would say, would probably be living the college lifestyle on steroids. But there was this gal that kept bugging him about inviting him to church, and she went to the gym that Kelly went to. So he's like, we were talking about going and finding a church. And he's like, can we go to this one, please? This lady's been asking us again and again and again. And we're like, sure. So we came to New Life, and everyone was very friendly. And by the time we left, we had been invited to Pot Grace, Ultimate Frisbee, and we were in a life group. I was like, Jess, I think we have to start going here. I think we're kind of committed. So the odd thing was we never stopped coming, and Kelly never went back. So
did he come that first time?
He came the first time.
And who had been inviting him?
Pete's ex.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Raylene. Yep. Yep. So Raylene had invited him for a long time, and he finally said yeah. So changed my life. That was like that was definitely a God thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. God used my friend Kelly to get us here to New Life. That's where we needed to be. Yeah.
And once you'd gotten here, what did you feel like was different that brought you to that point of recognizing, like, oh, like I do actually need to give my whole life to God?
Yeah, just the authenticity of here. Other churches that we'd been to, when Kurt talks about like American Christianity, like that there is a difference. We were probably experiencing American Christianity, and we started to come here and just get more and more convicted. Like, no, this is the lifestyle that we're living is not the lifestyle that we should be living. And became more and more convicted in that, and then had the realization that I just hadn't given my whole self. I was hanging on to this drinking, this partying thing. That was me being selfish with that. And it took a while. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm done drinking. It took a while for me to get to that point. But once I got to that point, just my life's been dramatically different, ever since then.
So how many years had you guys been married at this time? When you came here first?
Not even 1 year.
Oh.
Yeah. Because we got married in September, and then we moved up here in February-ish.
Okay.
Yep.
And then didn't you guys live with your parents for some time?
Yeah. So between September and February, we lived with my folks in Des Moines.
Okay.
Yep. So I worked the telecom job in the day, and then Jess and I would work at Quiznos, my dad's Quiznos, in the evening. Yep.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't making a whole lot of money.
Your wedding?
He did. He catered our wedding.
Sandwiches?
Yes.
Quiznos sandwiches?
That was a godsend.
Yeah.
We needed that.
Quiznos isn't bad though.
Quiznos
I don't
is
think
awesome.
so. Oh, yeah. I don't think it's bad.
Yeah. Quiznos is great sandwich. Yep.
So what were those like first early years of being married like for you guys?
Oh, being broke and fighting.
Oh yeah, but I know. I want to hear about it. How you guys work through that?
Yeah. So we came here, and Jess was working a commission only job. She was actually still doing door to door selling supplemental insurance, and I was here working off a very small draw amount, and we really couldn't afford to get out of my friend's apartment that we were staying with him in, but we definitely had to. So we just stopped paying all of our other bills and had enough money to pay for an apartment just to get out. It was not a good situation. So we stopped paying like anything that everything that we needed, we paid. Everything that we didn't, we stopped, and we just tanked Jess's credit score like big time. We're like, well, we're gonna need to get a house at some point. So I'm sorry, hon. All your stuff is just not gonna get paid for. We're gonna pay for ours. And So it was tough. Like she would. This is so dumb, but like she would get a pop at work, and it was like $1.50, and I was like so mad that she was getting a pop at work because we just had no money whatsoever. And I'm like, well, that's $1.50 a day times 5 days times this. It's like a whole nother $30 a month that we're spending on pop. And it's like, oh man, yep.
That's funny.
Yep.
When Josh and I were in our apartment, we had a similar situation. I'm laughing. I'm like, oh yeah. Except I was getting food before work from fast food places, and when he found out, he was like, like he barely could breathe. Like, you have to stop. This is a big deal.
Yeah, this is probably a lot less of a deal than that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but we were in this new young couples group that your dad was leading. And that was really beneficial to us in our marriage and just like working through things. And it also helped that we had our first fall and that was really impactful for us after we got paid after that first fall. Cause I had been working for, like six months without really running any fundraisers. And then I ran them all in August, and then we caught back up on credit cards and weren't as stressed out as newlyweds. So that was very helpful. Yeah.
So, how many years has it been since you started coming to New Life?
17. 17, yeah.
So, at New Life, we talk a lot about like making disciples that can make other disciples. And like, I feel like you're kind of the poster child for that because you're so focused on making disciples. And I guess, how did you go from, just first coming to New Life and realizing like, oh, this is authentic Christianity, to like how you are now, which is like really pursuing a lot of guys to be like, hey, you need authentic Christianity.
Yeah. I just like helping people. I was very blessed to be in a Barnabas for a long period of time with Kelly Danielson and Ben Hunt. That really shaped me into like more of a disciple maker, and then being around your dad a lot, that was really beneficial too. it was something I just craved more and more, is that authenticity, that really just Christ, Yeah.
How, I guess, what are some effective ways to disciple people in Barnabas groups? Because I feel like Barnabas groups can either be like, oh, we meet up and we talk about stuff and like not a whole lot happens, or I've been in like, sometimes it's the same Barnabas group just through different seasons, but like it'll be more like, okay, like holding each other accountable and like asking each other invasive questions and
I mean, you're not far off. Like that's it. I try to be as consistent as possible in our Barnabases. I have to travel sometime, but every time I'm not traveling, like I don't have sick days where I don't go to Barnabas, or I'm never too like tired and need to sleep in and go to Barnabas. I just try to be very, very consistent.
So you prioritize it.
Yeah, prioritize it. And I think if I prioritize it, then other people see that and probably will prioritize it too. Yeah. But it's not like a secret sauce. Just follow the power plan and ask intrusive questions. I don't like confrontation, but I know how valuable it is. I probably confront more than most people in my life, but I absolutely hate it. Yeah.
So how did you being poured into translate to, well, now I need to do that?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I've kind of been afraid to just pour into people that might be older and more mature. And at some point in time, I realized like it doesn't matter. Like it's just, hey, everyone wants to be closer to Jesus. Everyone wants to be more like Jesus. And if I see something, I should say something. Like the Cedar Rapids Airport, if you see something, say something. Like,
but that's the model of your life.
Big impact in my life. Yeah.
So you're not waiting for someone else to come along and invite this guy to this thing or mentor this guy.
I think I used to a lot. I used to like take a seat back and just like let everybody else do it. Like, oh, someone will do that. Someone will do that. And I realized no one's doing that. Like you have to do that. You have to be the person that's going to do that. Otherwise it's just not going to happen, And I think that's a big part of like just my change into leadership is like it's going to be me, I gotta be the one to do it.
You have to be the Leonardo.
You have to be the Leonardo.
And so when you first go out to like, or you realize somebody's got to do this, somebody's got to pour into these guys, somebody's got to invest in them, and you talk to, whoever you talk to, and you get rejected, how did that make you feel? And why did you keep talking to people?
Oh, I don't really care about rejection anymore. I sold books door to door for 3 summers. I'm kind of rejection proof at this point. I got all my rejections out of the way. It's not as big a deal to me.
But I also noticed when they reject you, you keep coming back. So you don't say no. You don't take no for an answer.
No is not yet.
No is not yet.
Well, it's just the way I feel about it. Like like if we're talking about like Edge Venture, like Nathan, I'll probably reach out to you more than once. It's just I feel like it's a very good thing. It's very impactful. Outside of coming to Christ, like that's probably a big part of the change in my life is Edge Venture. So of course I'm going to keep asking, because I think it's one of the best things you can do as a Christian to get on a deeper level and grow closer to God.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. So I guess what would you, for people listening who don't really know what Edge Venture is, I mean, they've probably heard about it if they've been here at New Life, because we've been sending guys there for several years now. But what would you say in a nutshell Edge Venture is?
I would probably have them ask themselves, like, how often do you get a weekend to sit down and really like think about like what's going on in your life and how to fix it? And I would say 0 people do that. And it's like David when he's like, hey, search my heart, oh God, find any sin in my heart and remove it. That's essentially what adventure is. It's giving yourself time to sit there and do that. And it's scary as all get out, but it's like what you get out of it is worth the fear. It's worth all that.
So your first time going to Edgeventure, what did you bring into it, and what did you feel like you got out of it?
Yeah. I wasn't so sure about it going into it. Kelly Danielson had asked me a few times. I was like, I like Kelly Danielson. I'll go and hang out with Kelly Danielson. He wanted me to carpool with some other people, and I'm like, I'm kind of stuck. I'm like, I'll just drive there myself. I'm like, I have to make some work calls, so I'll just drive there myself. Like, I had a backup plan. But going into it, there wasn't like one thing that stuck out. I felt like I was in a pretty good spot. But it was what I got out of it, amongst other things. The big thing I went through was just like my self-worth. I wasn't as confident at that point in my life. I thought I was messing up, and I was dumb. I just had really bad like self-talk. And then what I got out of it was just like a ton more confidence, and just my confidence was not coming from anything I did. It was just coming from like, hey, my relationship with God is the most important thing in my life, and everything else is means nothing.
Yeah.
It's when I talk to people about it, it's like playing with house money. I've already won. This is great. I can take some risks. I can risk rejection. Because I've already won. I'm good.
Well, and probably experiencing that much freedom that's like really freed up your whole life is what helps you feel that urge to talk to other men, because you found this really good thing and you love them enough and you want them to experience that as well.
Yeah. And I've seen what other men have gotten out of that. So like, that's enough motivation for me to get told no a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So when did you start your own business?
Yeah, that was about 9 months after I started with Varsity Gold. So I was doing this job I really loved, and I found out I was good at. I was about 9 months in, and I just got promoted to like manager. I was going to be managing one or two people over in Wisconsin, and we had our big national meeting, and the theme of the national meeting was here today, here tomorrow, because there was a bunch of competitors that were popping up and dropping off, and like we're here, we're the big company, we're gonna stick around. And then a week later, we got a formal letter letting us know that we wouldn't be getting our year-end commission checks, which is about a third of how we got paid.
Oh my.
And they were filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Oh.
But we should keep working for free. So I had to make a decision if I was going to go and find another job or try to do this on my own, and just talked to a couple coaches. Coach Schulte over at Xavier was one of those guys, and he's like, "No, I believe in you. We're going to keep working with you." And that gave me the confidence to kind of keep going. So that's when I knew January-ish of, I don't even know, 2009, 2008. Yeah.
Did you have a family at this point when you were?
Yeah, actually we did not officially have Mia yet, but Jess was carrying Mia.
So how was that? Was that scary? Like, I'm going to
yeah.
have this baby and I'm going to start a business?
Yeah. There's some extra motivation there.
Yeah.
We're making $0. Yep. There's no more draw.
And were you guys in your first house still at this point? Or
I think we were in the townhome apartments. Yep.
And did you guys have a lot of bills or debt that like?
Well, the ironic thing is the creditors came after us, the sales reps. So we had to pay out for some reason. So yeah, I'm a pretty frugal person, so that kind of saved us going into that first season. And I had a few coaches that I'm like, hey, I have to take all the cash on this sale so I can buy your cookie dough. They're like, okay, that seems normal. So that kind of got us through that. Once we got through that first spring, we realized, okay, we can make this work.
Yeah. So that seems really hard. I feel like when people think of starting a business, like, oh, it's a hard thing, but it seems like you guys had a lot to lose with you taking a bet on yourself.
Yeah. There was a lot at risk there. But I was confident in my my sales ability to be able to do that. I had already done it for a year, so I felt like I could continue to do that as long as I could work with vendors and make everything happen that way. And it happened to work out okay for us. Yep. It was very scary in the moment, but a lot of good came out of that.
What do you feel like are some lessons that you learned about starting a business that if someone is listening to the podcast and they're in a similar situation, that they could maybe glean something from that?
Yeah, you got to, at some point you got to take a risk. You know, you can't not be a risk taker and be in business. And if you're confident in yourself, you know, that's one of the safest bets you can make is betting on yourself. But at some point you got to jump in, you got to take that risk. Yeah. That's probably biggest advice I could give.
Do you feel like there's a certain personality type that works better for starting your own business? Like certain personality types just shouldn't?
No, I really think anybody can start their own business. It's really like you just gotta go towards your strengths. Is the reality of it. So if you're very analytical, use that as your strength. You know, and then you got to figure out a way to make up for like your weaknesses too. You know, if you're not good at something, have someone else help you. Or hire for that. Yep.
When did you get to that point where you realized, like, okay, there's these things I'm not good at and I need to hire someone to do it?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I married someone that is good in all the areas that I'm not. Jess has saved my butt in numerous ways, and she's really allowed me to grow the business because she takes care of every other aspect of my life besides running the business. So it's her reason it's successful. If I had to do all the things that she does for me, I would be miserable and failing. Yep.
You'd have to hire a lot of people.
I know. We talk about that, like we're trying to figure out life insurance stuff, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to hire someone to cook for me, someone
to remember your stuff.
Yeah. I hope Mia's around.
Yeah, she'll remember for you.
Yeah, I heard this interesting story in this other podcast that I was listening to, where like this couple was, they were like driving across country or something, and the guy was like a very successful businessman, like a millionaire or something like that. And they stop at this like gas station, and the lady goes in to like get a pop or like some chips or something, and the guy's pumping the gas. And then a little bit later, he goes into the gas station, and he like sees his wife like chatting up the cashier guy, and afterwards he's like, "Is there something there? Like, do you know this guy?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's my boyfriend from high school." And the guy's like, kind of like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And he's like, "I bet you're glad that you married me rather than him. He's just working in a gas station. I'm a millionaire." And then the lady's like, "No, I was thinking that if I'd married him, he would be a millionaire." And it's like, I do feel like
Very true.
that's kind of a very applicable story to your situation, it sounds like.
Yes, that's very, very true. I think the Alabama football coach has a similar story like that.
Yeah.
His wife does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely important to marry the right person.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out if I've married the right person, but
Joseph, most of our podcast has been about how you wanted to marry Elena, you wanted to date Elena. Your biggest problem was Elena, I guess.
No, I definitely married the right person, because Elena doesn't like putting up with crap.
That's a good fit.
But I could have a lot of crap in my life, so.
Yeah. But at some point we did, like I got Todd over here. He was in the SEALs. He went to NYU after college. And then after he got his master's in sports management, he thought that was a good time to go into the SEALs. So he got injured in the SEALs, and we went on a recruiting trip to go and see him and bring him back to Iowa. And it was a great way to write off a trip over to San Diego.
So the tax fraud started early.
It was a recruiting trip. I did put together like a little packet for him, like, hey, these are all the things that we do. You should do this. It's sports. It's in your world. And he came back and back from San Diego, came back, and I was like, hey, how about you follow me and you can run this sale? And there was no like interview process. There was no anything. And he came back and he just kept running other sales. And yeah, we went through a little bit of training, but there was no formal like ask. It was just like, hey, run this sale, please, and just keep running sales. And then we got kind of busy shortly after, and we're like, I don't want to keep doing all this office work, you know. We need to hire like a business mom or something.
A business mom.
Yeah. So that was our first hire was a business mom, and that was Heather, and she became our first admin. Yep. So now she basically runs the whole back office for us and does all that sort of stuff. So she's been with us from the very beginning. She's very protective of the business. When someone tries to cheat us out of money, she's like right there. Like, yeah. But she was awesome. So that was huge for us because it was a lot of detail work, and I was not detail oriented. One of my biggest mistakes starting off in this business is we worked with Wahlert football, and I did not proofread the card that went out. So we end up selling like 756 whale heart football cards. Yep.
Not a big difference.
Not a big difference. Yeah, and it's been 16 years, and we still haven't worked with them.
I did want to ask, though, like for single people who are listening, you said you married just the right woman, and Joseph said the same as well. So how did you spot out, like, this is the lady for me? I would like to know that.
So we became really good friends. So over my first summer, she had already been doing it for a while. So she was like, Todd was my manager that recruited me, but Jess was the person I checked in with every night. And I would tell her all of my problems, and she would listen and say, "Oh, you poor thing." And no, she wouldn't.
I'm surprised. She would say something else.
That was more like it. Okay. Yeah, but she would actually listen, and we developed this like rapport through the summer where I would tell her about my day, and then we got back to school and we just started hanging out more and more. And when it finally clicked, it was like. She wanted to get a digital camera, and I used to sell them at Office Max. So I was like, hey, I'll come over with you and I'll help you get a camera. But I really want to finish watching this like old Western. She's like, well, just come watch over at my house and then we'll go from there. I was like, cool. So I was like laying on the couch and watching that, and she had like played with my hair, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really nice. Yep. That was really nice of her. And then like that's when we kind of knew like it was more than just like a friendship. Do you
remember what the movie was?
Like some like John Wayne movie. I can't remember. Yeah.
So your advice is?
Oh yeah, sorry. My advice is be friends with the person that you want to marry. Yeah, it makes everything else easier.
And then becoming useful to you comes later on.
Yeah. Yeah, be friends with the person that you want to marry.
So, what is your relationship with your kids like?
I hope they'd say it's good. I feel like it's good. I feel like we have a lot of trust. Yeah, I try to be intentional. Jess tries to be intentional with the girls too. So try to live in their world as much as possible.
Yeah, that is one thing I very much admire about you and Jess. You guys are so invested in your kids' life. You guys are there for them, and you're inviting their friends over, and their friends are sitting by you. But not only like I feel like the kids, their friends don't feel like they have to be around you. I feel like their friends like you. And that's the feeling I'm getting from watching that. But you guys are just so invested, and you are very intentional about protecting your kids as well.
Yeah, that was something that's very important from the beginning. We wanted to be the most influential people in our kids' lives, and that was a big part of the reason why we wanted to homeschool. And their friends are great, but also their friends are
Kids.
Yeah. And kids don't have fully developed brains.
Yeah.
And we want them to be coming to us with things instead of their friends. We feel like they're gonna get better counsel coming to us with things than coming to a 14 or 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a great mom and dad win youth group. There, everyone's asked like who the most influential person in your life is, and Mia said mom and dad. I was like, win.
It worked.
That was it. All right, we're done.
Yeah, you're finished with her.
So how do you feel like you fostered that trust with Mia and Hazel, especially as they're now like
teen and preteen?
Yeah.
How did you get their heart?
Just teen.
Oh, I guess
Teen
they're
and
both
teen.
teen.
Teen and teen, yeah.
Fighting with them. Our girls have been through some hard things, and just being there for them through those hard things, stubbornly being there for them through those hard things, just letting them know like, hey, it might be hard and you might be angry and you might be sad, but we're big enough to take that, and we're just going to be here with you all the way through it, no matter what. And I think that built up a lot of trust with our daughters and us, where they felt like they could come to us with things, or maybe even use this as like a temporary punching bag, and it was a safe spot.
So how did you manage to have that fostering comfort and safety with also like being a disciplinarian, because you're still their parent too?
Well, I think that's how the trust started, is like talking about like why we discipline. And I think they fully understand it now as they're babysitting.
Yeah.
They understand why we do the things that we do, but I think that built a lot of trust, just giving them like parameters and like where they can operate. They knew where their boundaries were.
Yeah.
And I think that makes kids feel safe.
Yeah. So Scott, with your business, you used to travel a lot. You don't so much anymore. And I know a lot of the time it was Jess and the kids. So how did you continue to build up a strong relationship that dad is still the one in control of this home, dad is still the leader, while traveling as much as you did?
So because we homeschooled, we had Jess and the girls come with me as much as possible. So at the end of the day, I could still come home and see them and be around them. That was a big part of it. And then also Jess played a big role there. She, even when I was gone and they were still in Iowa, she would talk about like why I was gone and what I was doing, and how much I love them because I was working hard for them. So Jess was a big part of that throughout all of that travel.
Well, and I noticed when I'm in your home, you're always down on the ground with kids and on the carpet. Did you do a lot of that with your girls then?
Oh yeah,
getting down and
yeah, we wrestled all the time. Yeah, we definitely wrestled. Yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah. Are you guys still wrestling? Are you still fighting Mia?
No, she doesn't like to wrestle. But she likes to fight.
So, have you thought much about what it's going to be like to transition away from because obviously in a few years here they're going to be doing something, and it's probably not going to be living in your basement or whatever. Have you been thinking much about that recently?
Yeah. Thanks. We'll be really sad when that time happens. Yeah, but yeah, we've thought through some of that. We're putting some plans in place.
The McMasters always have a plan.
Yeah, we're building an outbuilding. I might put an apartment in there, and if Mia wants to move out, but maybe not so far away, then that might be a good option for her.
Hazel has told me she is not going anywhere until you guys make her.
Yeah. Hazel will live with us forever.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about her.
If she does go somewhere, she'll stay with
Mia.
Yep.
That's her plan.
Yep.
Nice. Well, it'll be really interesting to see what they do with their lives, because I really do feel like they've had two great parents.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And a lot of that's Jesus working in us.
Yeah. I feel like you can see some of like the work you guys have put in now with the girls. Like, I don't think we even have to wait a long time to see that they have gotten so many things from you. They have impeccable work ethics. And I don't know if you feel the same way with them being in your home, but the amount of babysitting those girls do. When I come to your house, they babysit me. They do such a good job.
That's an area that we were intentional in for sure. That was really important for us to teach our kids how to work hard. That was something that Jess and I felt like that we were naturally gifted in that area, and we wanted to pass that along for sure.
Well, and they're very kind too. Very kind people. Was that something you were intentional, or is that just you learned it from someone?
Well, yeah, we there was corrective behavior throughout the years. Yep, for sure. Yep.
So we haven't been talking much about your other family members, the dogs. Elena, I asked Elena what I should ask you, Scott, and this is how she worded it. So if this is offensive or something, just talk to her. Talk to her. Do you actually like pugs? That's how she worded it. Okay.
Yes, we actually like pugs. We love pugs. Yes.
What is it about pugs that you love?
Oh, they have such a personality. Each one of them is different. Yeah. So we love that. And they're really cute. I don't care what you say. Pugs are cute. Boris may be the cutest pug yet. But yeah, and they're small, they're snuggly. Yeah. Smaller poops. That's always good.
I feel like if you spend a lot of time with them and you get to know them, like I met Shorty and I definitely was like, that's a funny looking dog.
Well, Shorty was funny looking.
His tooth and like he just had a lot of things going on. But by the time he was like gone, I was so sad. And like that cute little puppy, I loved him genuinely. So then I became a pug lover too. I still call them bus dogs, but
bus dogs?
Their face looks like smashed by a bus. Yeah. They are still very cute. I think I like them as well. And I like Boris, little Bobo.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys ever seen like Mitchell's versus the Machines,
yes,
like, that's a good indicator of like pugs.
Yeah.
That's one of the funniest animated movies I've ever seen.
That movie is actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was kind of surprised by that one because I was like, I was living with John and Jessica at the time, and so I'd been consuming a lot of children's animated stuff, and that one was surprisingly good.
Yeah, that was a good one up until the very end, but we just don't watch the last.
Yeah, you just skip it.
5 minutes. Yep, you're good. Yep.
So, what would you say have been one of the hardest things you've experienced in your life?
There's there's probably a couple really big ones that stand out. When we lost baby Samuel, that was probably a pretty impactful time in our lives. It was very sad, very sorrowful, but your dad was there for us, and it really instead of us pushing God away, it really drew us closer to Him. We felt like there was a big need for God in that moment, so we both drew closer to God during that time. That was difficult, and it was probably even more difficult on Jess.
And when was that?
That was between me and Hazel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you tell us how far along were you? How did you find out all that?
We went in for our 20-week ultrasound to find out if it was a boy or girl. And the tech said that she was going to go get a doctor, and I think Jess had maybe just read about something like that and what that meant. So we kind of knew going into it when the doctor came in what they were gonna say. So that was really hard. I just remember there's nothing you can do to fix it.
Yeah.
I just remember I don't want Jess to have to answer any questions about the baby. So as soon as we got home, I just started calling everybody and trying to get that out so that she wouldn't have to go through that part. At least everyone would know. So that took a toll on us. That was a difficult thing in our life. And then just 2020 was miserable too. I mean, not the same level, but it was hard on us and a lot of our friends who are in the fundraising business and people that we work with, because when 2020 hit, the pandemic was going on and they shut down every school. So there wasn't a single school that was open across the country. And when your business relies on high schools being open, we effectively were shut down for months.
So to go back to your miscarriage, what would you say to a family or a couple that is experiencing that, or how, if you want to talk about how husbands experience something like that, or what do you think has been a positive outcome of where you've seen God work in that kind of situation?
I don't know if there's really much you can say to a husband or wife that goes through that. I think you just be there for people in whatever way, shape, or form that you can. Try to show them as much of God's love as you can in that moment. I feel like God works through His people in the church, and that's how He shows love. Short of Jesus coming back, that's the next best thing we got down here. Yeah. So I don't have any great advice for that. I just don't know if there's really much you can say or do in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say you've seen positive things come from you guys losing Samuel?
Yeah, I mean Hazel. We wouldn't have had Hazel if we had Samuel. But yeah, I mean it's a very sad thing, but we grew a lot in our faith. We grew a lot closer to each other. We grew a lot in our marriage. It would be kind of similar to going to war with someone. You're just going to draw closer to them. Because you both went through something very, very difficult. Yeah. So I think I probably this year more than ever, I've kind of relied on Romans 8:28. God works all things out for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. He says all things, not some things. So even if there's something really hard or tough or difficult, there's a reason for that. We can't understand it in the moment. But we can definitely see little signs and bits and wonders. 10, 20 years down the road, there's a reason for it.
Yeah. And would you say that there's still that wound there though, that you still feel hurt about that, do you feel like?
I think it's sad, but it's not like a wound anymore. It's like a scar. You know, it's there. It happened, and just might feel differently about that. There's just a different closeness, a different bond. You know, that I don't think dads can really experience like that in the same way.
Yeah. The amazing thing about that, like just God, though, is that like he knows exactly what that feels like. Like he lost his son for our sins. You know, that's when you lose a baby, it's not anything you did. But the fact that when you're going through that, you can know that God knows what that feels like. He's lost a child and he got to see his child again because his child came back to life. And when you think, like, I don't know what people believe about, you know, what happens to babies, but I personally think you'll get to heaven and you get to see your baby because you will be made alive again, and God will be there and he's going to be taking care of your kid. And that's just beautiful. To talk about 2020, I know that was a really hard time for your family because your business was in some trouble because all the high schools are closed. How did you guys like handle that? Like what all did you guys do?
You guys are just talking about all sorts of fun topics.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking like, how do we get it out of this pit?
That's okay. Sorry. No, I think you learn a lot from things like that. So yeah, that happened, and we were still paying people draws and everything. And we had to have like really tough conversations with all of our reps. We knew like it was right before the spring, and our spring is the second busiest time of our year. So between December and March, it's very slow. So then March, we're just getting ready to run fundraisers, and then nothing. So we had to have some difficult conversations with all of our reps and talk to them about like, hey, is there any way you can take the PPP money, you know, and save us from going off the draw? Like, you know, and I remember I called every single one of our people in our company and had that conversation with them. And I remember crying at the end just because how generous people were and how much they cared about us. And that was something that we really discovered through that is people came out of the woodwork to help us out and support us through all that stuff. And it, like, we hadn't experienced that before, you know, and it was really cool to see that and experience that and realize like, yeah, people would love us and care about us. Yeah. And then we finally get going again. Like, I was the first state in the country to get back to high school sports, and then getting ready to gear up for football, and then derecho hits. It's like, okay, well, there goes all of my teams are right along Highway 30, which is like right where it went through. I'm like, cool. That's great. And then our basement backed up 3 times.
Yeah. I remember that.
And we had Ash living with us. We're like, this is terrible, but Ash, could you please help us? We're so tired of doing this. And she was such a champ. She helped us out. And like, it was a really rough 2020.
Yeah.
The funny part of that I remember is the girl saying like, that's definitely this person's poop. I saw Riker's poop.
Yeah, that was gross.
Well, I just ask about all this. Like, I wasn't there for Samuel, but like through 2020, you guys were still loving people. Like, you guys were going through such hard things, but I never felt like Jess was like not as loving or not as generous, or like, how did you guys find the strength to, like, you personally had a really, like, a lot of things around you were just falling.
Yeah.
And I know I've heard you say before that you pray with your hands open, wanting to give everything to God. And then I remember I've heard you said after 2020, it's like,
well, that's kind of what made me start praying like that is, like, I just had a better understanding of what it means to, like, just give your whole life over to God. Like, hey, this stuff can be taken away in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And if you want to hang on to it like this, it's gonna it's just not going to work out well for you. So just trying to pray with my hands open is like a way that I'm acknowledging, like, hey, whatever I have, God, is yours. It's not mine.
Yeah.
And that helped me get through it once I understood that.
Yeah.
It's all his anyways.
Yeah. Well, I know it was very sad things I asked about, but I feel like seeing you guys go through 2020 and other things that you guys have gone through has like spoken more volumes to me than anything you would have like said to me, or even being in relationship with you guys. I felt like those things, seeing you like walk the walk, preached more to me than anything else that, could have said. Actions speak louder than words.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you and Jess, your family, you guys are very generous. So would you talk about why it's important to you to be generous to people, your friends, with your time, resources, and all that?
I love people. Jess and I love people. And, we were both salespeople, and it's find a need, fill a need. That gives us a lot of joy. I feel like that's an area we're just kind of gifted in naturally.
See, a lot of people don't like salespeople. So when you put it like that, you need something, and I'm giving it to you.
I didn't even realize when I had my first sales job at Office Max, I didn't realize I was even selling anything. I would just walk up to someone and say, hey, what you looking for? What can I help you with? And bring it to them and give them a recommendation. And like, I'd go with this one. This one looks a lot better than the other one. Yeah. Like, oh, thanks.
So with my tallow business, I just need to be thinking people have really dry, aging skin. And I need to...
Yeah, there's all sorts of needs for it.
I need to give them this lotion.
Yep. Just like there's all sorts of needs for fundraising.
Yes. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Nathan, what is our runtime at?
For about 80 minutes.
80 minutes? You making me do math?
An hour 20.
Oh, that's not bad.
I thought we were way later. Okay. Well, we gotta fill some more time then.
I feel happy to. I have more sad things to ask about.
We're done with the sad things.
I know. I'm just
A little
kidding.
bit of
I'm
a
just
slip.
kidding.
So, Scott, what kinds of things do you enjoy doing? Well, first of all, do you have free time? And then what kinds of things do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Every 3 months on a Thursday, we don't have life group. I get some free time. Like the things I enjoy doing with free time, I love fishing. Yeah, I love fishing, and it's way better to do it with somebody else. Yeah, so I like fishing with other people. That's my favorite thing to do. And I like watching football. Yep, I like watching hockey and Kansas Jayhawk basketball. And every once in a while, I can trick the girls into watching Jayhawks basketball with me. We trained them for a long time on chips and cheese, and then that just does not have the same effect anymore. They can go and get chips and cheese all the time now. Doesn't mean the same thing. Yeah.
So who are your favorite teams with basketball and football and hockey?
Jayhawk basketball.
Okay.
And then we're big Rough Riders fans. Cedar Rapids Rough Riders.
Yep.
Jess somehow got us all tricked into the New Jersey Devils hockey team, and then the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are our teams. Yep.
So do you feel like Kansas is like your hometown kind of still, or?
I don't know. That's just like when you're like a young boy, it's like you got your team, and then that's like kind of your team for life.
Yeah.
It just kind of is, because that's what your dad likes, or that's what your grandpa likes, and all you guys up here have convinced me to watch Iowa Hawkeye football. Yeah. There's been some rough seasons, but I'm not as tied into that as some of those other ones. So yeah, I can kind of bypass the Saturday morning if I want to. Yeah.
So is there any, it sounds like anything you want to do, you want to be doing it with people. Do you ever are you ever drawn towards solitude, or would you just rather always be with people, interacting with people?
I think for the most part, I'd rather be with people. There's definitely times where it's like, I'm like when I travel, I have like an hour and a half on this plane to do nothing, and I'm gladly going to watch a movie to do that. And I don't mind the solitude there because it's like a little bit of a break. But for me, I think I get most of my solitude time like in the mornings. You know, I like to work out in the morning. I like to read in the morning, read the Bible in the morning. Like that's kind of my solitude time.
Yeah. Are you like an early riser? Is that?
That's like a struggle every single day. It's the first battle of the day is trying to get up at the time I want to get up and trying to do the things that I want to do. And it hasn't gotten easier over all these years. It's just still a brutal battle.
So are you more of a night owl then?
I think naturally, yeah.
So you're just going against who you
I'm just
are.
going
That's
against
why
the grain. Yep.
it's taking you so long. You may never get easy.
Well, if I don't do those things in the morning, I'm gonna find other things to do throughout the rest of the day. So if I get up in the morning and work out and read the Word, then I know it's in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
then you've gotten it done. What would you say is your spiritual gift?
Stubbornness.
Jesus had that one too, so I think that does count.
Stubbornness, persistence, and then I kind of realized somewhat recently, like I think I have a gift in leadership. I've probably had it for a little bit, but just kind of been fighting it. But now I'm not anymore. Yep.
Something I did want to ask you about, like your stubbornness and your persistence. So something that like I've kind of like gone back and forth on is my dad in his like fruit as Christian Essentials or whatever, he really goes hard on like willpower, like because a lot of times Christians can just use willpower to serve God and not actually have their heart beat in it. So, but then also like I've recognized in my life, like, well, if I totally throw willpower out the window, then I'm never going to do anything. And so I don't feel like it's necessarily right to like say that like willpower, using your willpower is bad. But what would you say is the balance between like making sure that you're doing things from the right heart and then also, you know, using your willpower to do things even if it doesn't seem effortless or whatever?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that in my life where I have to use willpower there. I think Ecclesiastes says it best. It's just the summary of all Ecclesiastes is follow all these rules God has for you in your life and love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Like, I think that's it. Just trying to follow God's commandments as much as possible. And there's definitely lots of things you can tie into that. I think your mom's favorite verse is my favorite verse, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for men. And I think I say that enough to where I believe it's just part of me. Yeah.
So when you're listing off what you think might be your spiritual gift, you didn't say evangelism. I feel like you share the gospel with people a lot.
Yeah. I think it's more so like in the building relationships. It's more like, really find a need, fill a need. Like when I'm talking to someone and they're struggling with something, it's very easy for me to bring up Jesus because like that's how I would handle it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it sounds like you're dealing with this tough thing. I really don't have any better advice for you than just like, hey, follow Jesus. Like that's made a big difference in my life, and here's why. It's that part comes really natural. It's the most helpful thing you can do for someone.
Yeah, and if you're not afraid of rejection, then you're just gonna bring it
Nothing
up.
to stop you.
Exactly. What am I gonna do? Tell me you don't like Jesus? Okay. Which nobody even says that,
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about like, how am I gonna, which is, it's ridiculous, but like, how am I gonna share the gospel with Gwen? Like, what do we do? Do we just tell her to repeat after us right now, like, Jesus saved me, and then, you know, maybe that's good enough? Or, but like, we read books, but it's kind of concerning because she likes these like rhyming books, and then we have the Jesus storybook, but when we read that one, she's like, oh, read llama llama. And I'm like, this girl, like, I don't even know what to do. So now I've been having her repeat after me, like, Jesus, please save me every night. And then I'm praying for her, Jesus, please help me obey. And she's just repeating and she doesn't believe it. But I'm like, well, what if, like, I don't know, that does the opposite?
Yeah.
What I'm asking you is, like, what did you guys do to...
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, I think I learned with Mia, and I've got to see some people come to Christ, and it's a really, man, that's an amazing feeling. Like every time I've seen someone come to Christ, it's just like, it's so emotional. Mm-hmm. You're like, yeah, this is it. Thank you, Lord, for letting me be a part of that. You know. Mm-hmm. So like with Mia, you know, she was asking a lot of these questions about God and Jesus, and you know, what's it mean to go to heaven, and all these things. And you kind of felt like it was like she was close to that moment, and that was going to happen. So I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take her to what's the Palisades Park, and we're going to go out there. We're going to be hiking. We're going to be in the middle of the woods, surrounded by nature and God, and you know, and we're going to have this big, meaningful conversation about God, and just going to come to Christ there. Mm-hmm. You know. And we get out there, and wants nothing to do with it. It's just like squirrel, you know? So I kind of realized there's nothing you can do to make it happen, mm-hmm. and there's nothing you can do to stop it from happening. You just can't. I got to get to know this person for 5 days. They came to one of our trainings, and last day they just had like a kind of a breakdown, like, I can't do this, and I'm like, this is like, I don't know what you got going on, but I like, if you want some peace, you know, I can tell you about how I get peace. Like, yeah, I'd like to know that. And I just told him about Jesus and accepted it right then and there. And then that dude lasted like 3 days in the field, and he was gone. But like, the point of it's like, there was no stopping it. Like, it was almost like they weren't my words, you know. Yeah. It was like, this just comes so natural in that moment, you know. And I don't know where he's at in his walk, and haven't talked to him since. But like, I think it's just one of those things, you can't stop it and you can't make it happen.
But you can aid it. It seems like,
I think you just got to trust God with Gwen. Yeah, sorry, Jerra.
I'll be reading Llama Llama Grandma and Grandpa then.
Yeah, that sounds like a classic. I mean,
yeah. Oh, she loves that book. We read it 10 times a day. But it seems like you put yourself in positions to where that can happen. Like, you're going to edge, you're talking to people, like, you're putting yourself in a position where God can use you.
Yeah, Bible talks about being all things for all men, and I try to implement that in my life. Yep.
Well, I think I've kind of ran out of questions.
I can keep talking, but we can be done.
Yeah, I mean, if you got more questions, that's fine.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. So how did Hazel? I think you said, like, how did Hazel come to Christ? That was kind of funny, if I remember.
So we were going through the book of Matthew with Mia, and like, eventually we came upon a couple verses where it's just like, okay, like, I want that. It's like, I want to follow Jesus, you know, and that was easy. Oh, you know. And then Hazel started to get to the point where she was asking some questions. I'm like, well, let's just read through one of the Gospels. Mm-hmm. And Mark is the shortest Gospel. So we went through Mark to save some time. Mm-hmm. And somewhere in there, she had the inclination that she wanted to follow Jesus there. Yeah.
That's funny. So God uses your tongue feeling swollen. You take your daughter to save you. And then you take your daughter on this beautiful hike, and she's like, no. Yeah. And then something, just reading God's word, saves her. And then Hazel, just for expediency, you guys want to do. Mark.
Mark is still good.
It's good, but your
also the-
reasoning was it's fast.
It's faster. It's not as long.
My favorite gospel is Matthew. I
Matthew.
think it's the best one.
I agree with you.
It's either Matthew or John for me, or Luke or Mark.
Okay.
No, probably not Mark.
Just commit, Joe.
Yeah. Pick one.
See, I feel like when I'm reading Mark, I'm missing out because it is the shortest
Yeah.
one. So
You
it
miss
doesn't
out on
have,
all the good stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark is still nice, but
Have you watched any of The Chosen?
Yeah.
So, do you think, because they portray Matthew as being autistic, do you think that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
no, that's just
I've
kinda
never
something
gotten
they
that.
came up- That's just kind of something they came up with.
I don't know. It worked for me. I was like, oh my gosh.
I mean, I think it's a very good character,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, I don't think it's necessarily historically accurate. I
No.
don't know.
There's some built-in drama. We talk each night about like, okay, this is in the Bible, this isn't in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. They take some liberties as they go through. But you gotta make it exciting, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's very good storytelling.
it is.
Yep.
But so you're saying you do that with your kids? Like
Yeah,
you
we-
straighten that out?
Yeah, we all watch it together and we kind of pause through some moments and like, hey, this is where this is at, and
Yeah.
this is what this is talking about. And
Yeah, I'll let you go soon. But that makes me think, though, a lot of us, we're raising our children now and we're raising our children like the world of technology and the internet, like what I was talking about earlier. What steps are you guys doing to protect your girls and, though, to correct the things that they are encountering in the world? Because they're going to friends' houses, they're talking to friends, they're having conversations with other people. What are you guys doing to make sure they're believing the right things, that they know the right things?
well, we're homeschooling, which is helpful, and we're being an influence, more of an influence than the world is.
Yeah.
You know, but we talk about a lot of things. We talk about a lot of things that are, you know, probably conversations you, as a parent, you don't want to talk about, and we just talk about them anyways. And I think that they at least know the truth before they go out there and they experience that for themselves.
So they have something to compare everything to.
And there's so many things on the digital side of things, and you're never going to be 100% protected.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're planning on talking about some of those I think we're going to do a parenting and marriage conference coming up this spring. Yeah. So little plug there for the parenting and marriage conference this spring. And then we're going to have a panel, 2 coming up, so that you can ask some experienced adults that are more wise in their age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. You guys should definitely go to that. Scott and Jess actually did mine and Josh's marriage counseling, and we're doing okay.
Still together.
We're still together.
Batting 1,000.
So, well, thank you for coming,
Yeah,
Scott. Thanks
it's
for
fun.
giving us your time.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I'll just say thank you for listening, everybody. And if you want to be on the podcast, let us know. We'll get you on here. And I feel like I'm forgetting something.
No, that's it. We don't have much that we
Yeah.
say.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
We should have an outro, though, like a, I don't know,
Oh,
like a thing we always. Is this still going? I mean, like for later.
You guys can cut it.
Yeah.
What's
But will Joseph cut it? That's the question.
well, what's our outro?
What is the name of the show? New cast?
NewLifeCast.
Oh, we'll see you a new cast.
Sure.
Just close in prayer.
Oh, that's a good
that's
one. Yeah, you should
Good
say a
idea.
prayer.
All right, I'll say a prayer then. Dear God, thank you for the new life, the church, and new life that you've given all of us. Thank you just for how you've worked in Scott's life and how we can all be encouraged by that. Amen.
Amen.